As you guys know, we're scaling our business by, first of all, developing our team, right? We want to empower our clients, and we want to provide content and education, which is part of what I've committed to you guys. So for the rest of this time, I'm going to be covering something really important, which is being a good steward of your time. And I want you guys to look at this visual representation, but that's how quickly your time just starts disappearing. And it's the clearest way that you can see how literally as we speak, time is disappearing. I can't get that time back. And so what I think is critical for us to share with you is we're going to be covering an actual series that I have been studying for myself to develop myself and go to the next level. And I want to pour that into you so that you guys can be more productive, effective. And so I let Sam and Toshi come up with an awesome name. I don't even know if I can say that 4 times in a row, but it's all about becoming high velocity training to create quantum leaps in your development and performance. So what I want you guys to do is, this is a series of things that I'm going to share with you, and we're really going to start diving into some of these things. So I want you guys to really take notes here. Today we're going to talk about some 3 key components, and I'm going to get started on that right now, that I think if you literally don't just listen to this, but if you start applying this, your performance should go at a whole nother level, and your income potential is going to go through the roof. I can almost guarantee it. And I can say that because I write the checks, right? So just follow what I'm saying. Our goal here is to help you to perform and develop yourself and be an invaluable tool to the company, which ultimately increases everybody's income when that happens, okay? So now, could you put the mouse again on that real quick, just so I can, there it is. All right, so the first thing I want to do before we get started is I want to give you guys a little perspective. I have been literally diving. I told you guys this year, Rick's #1 focus is to be a master at time management. And so I want to give you a little perspective of a study that was done actually by Career Builder. And the study that they wanted to find out is, with this new technology in this era where there seems to be more tools and availability, why is there a steady increase in time wasting and unproductive work instead of actually performance and growth, which is an interesting question. So what they did is they surveyed over 2,138 hiring managers and about 3,033 full-time coworkers across various industries and various jobs, from administrative to sales, management, you name it, they did this role. And so what they said is, you're not going to get fired for this, but we're going to ask you a couple of key questions and we want you to be transparent. And in this survey that they conducted with thousands of people, what they found is that about 24% of them actually admitted to wasting at least 1 hour a day. So I'm going to show you this perspective for just a minute. Most of them, when they admitted that they had spent at least an hour a day of their company time that they had wasted, they actually gave them categories to break down what it was for. So I want to share with you what those categories are. The first one on the list, which was about 50% of that time, was wasted literally talking on the cell phone and texting other people outside of work. 42% actually admitted to just gossiping and just talking about stuff that didn't matter during work hours. Interesting. If I'm stepping on your toes, I'm sorry, but I'm happy. All right, a lot of them were on the internet searching for stuff on their own. That was 39%. 38% admitted that actually they were on social media. Everybody knows that that's a plague these days. The next one is taking snack breaks or smoke breaks, 27%. Luckily, we don't have that many people that smoke here. And those that do, I'll make you feel so guilty. So I'm not even going to look back. Anyway, others were distracted by noisy coworkers. Now, what I find funny is that, anyway, I'll leave it alone, but that was interesting. Others were in other meetings that were not relevant to work, was 23%. Oh, you got pointed out and everything. 23% were on personal emails. You guys following the drift? 23% were actually distracted by other coworkers who drop by and talk about sweet nothings. And lastly, don't laugh too hard, because lastly, 10% were distracted by coworkers on calls on speakerphones. But now it goes even deeper. This was just the people who admitted to an hour. But other people out of that 24% actually went crazy and they admitted more. And let me show you. 31% of the people in the survey actually said that they waste roughly 30 minutes daily. 31% admitted to wasting literally roughly an hour a day. 16% actually said they waste about 2 hours a day. 6% waste about 3 hours a day, and they admitted it. 2%, they literally said that they spend 4 hours of the day wasting time.
Directors or something.
And lastly, 2% spend 5 hours or more not performing. But guys, this was a survey that was done, and I want us to understand. I know it's funny, but it's real. And it's important that if we're not careful with how we tell our time, what we're going to do with it, look at how quickly this time is disappearing. You guys follow? Like, that's a visual representation of how it goes. Now, here's what's even more interesting. When these people were asked another question, I want you guys to see, they wanted them to put a question and give a specific answer. And this was the question. How would you feel if your employer lowered your compensation or your bonuses? The questions, these are the words. Unfair. Yeah, that's it. Unfair. They felt cheated. They felt cheated. Could you believe this? They felt cheated. Unappreciated, manipulated, unacceptable. They were quitting. They were furious, and they were looking for other jobs. I mean, think about the contradiction here, right? We have people, 2% admitted to wasting more than 5 hours a day, and that's probably the person who said, I'm cheated.
Yeah. Let's go find somebody that appreciates us on the speakerphone.
So the question is, what are your thoughts about this? I mean, if you're the boss and you're the one that's taking the risk, how would you feel about somebody who's wasting your time? You guys follow? Right? Exactly. So I want us to really take a look at this and really consider this as we move forward, because guess what? We are all guilty of this, even right now at this very moment. We're all guilty of this, right? So the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that if we're not careful, if we're not very careful in the way that we manage our time, we can very easily slip into this statistic. And then when it doesn't reflect our pocket, we can get frustrated and say, it's not fair. But is it really fair? Would you guys agree? So I want us to really open up our eyes, not just for work, but in your life. This whole series is going to cover a lot of things. And so today I'm going to break down the key components. So write this part down. Let's begin. The first one is you have to strategize. What I have learned, not only with my time and as I'm growing, is that even as I'm working with some business coaches that are challenging me to get better, it's like, hey, listen, before we do anything, why don't we sit down and strategize? And I'm like, what a waste of time. Let's go. But the reality is, if we don't actually focus and put a plan together, we're never going to achieve a goal. And so I really love this quote from Abraham Lincoln. He says, give me 6 hours to chop down a large tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. And that is so powerful. It's a lot easier when you ultimately can chop a tree down that much quicker and have less work put together because you have the right strategy in place. You guys with me? So sometimes it's not just about chopping down at a tree. It's about making sure that blade is sharp so you could actually cut it down quicker. So this is the way that we're going to begin. The first bullet that I want you to understand is, in order to strategize, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can learn from other people's success. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I feel that I'm a pretty decent time manager, but I want to go to the next level. So what am I doing? I'm courting relationships with companies that are managing billions of dollars. Why? Because I guarantee you they have a different process for managing their time than I have. And if I want to grow, guess what Rick has to do? I got to increase my game. Same with you guys, right? So learn from some of these resources, but also become a student of leveraging other people's successes to your advantage. Does that make sense? Because if you're not leveraging other people's success, you're foolish. The next thing is plan with the end in mind. So as we begin to strategize, and we're going to do some breakout sessions later with your team leaders, they're going to work with you individually. But the goal here is to really start considering, what is the end in my game here? If you're in business development, it should be a little bit clearer, right? But when you're in administrative, or you're doing project management or processing or underwriting or servicing or whatever other department that you're in, what we need to really start clarifying is, what is the end game? And I'm telling you this from experience. You could even identify what your end game is, but if you don't put a time of when you're going to do it, it'll never happen, right? So the reality is, you write down a simplified version of what your end game is, and then you say from X to Y by when. That's the way that you should be. From X to Y by then. If you don't have one of those, guess what? You're never going to achieve it. You're never going to reach that next level. The next piece that I want you to do is break it down. A lot of people get overwhelmed. You know, we talked about the $40 million goals. We talked about the acquisition goals that we have. We've talked about the realty goals and all the other stuff that we're doing. And it could really get crazy where you start going, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Like, how am I supposed to do all this? But when you take a look at the big objective, the key is break it down and take that quarterly goal, break it down to a monthly goal, and then start breaking down your weekly objectives. Because you know that if you start taking one bite at a time strategically, you will achieve that goal. So break it down. If you don't have it broken down, I'm telling you, the team is already providing resources. We're going to show you guys both online and here how you guys can do this, okay? But it's very important for you to break it down. The next one, this one's really interesting because I actually shared this with you guys. Usually I reward myself for hitting a goal. But I was challenged by my accountability partner and also by other business owners that I'll talk about in a minute, that if you have a specific goal that you're going after, if you only have a positive consequence, then if something goes wrong or you don't hit that goal, then there is no other consequence, right? And we live in a world of cause and effect. And so to give an example, one of my buddies introduced me to the main CEO of Keller Williams. Would you guys agree Keller Williams is pretty big, right? They have a pretty big team. So he actually has admitted to work with his accountability partner that he has. And he said that actually at this point they do crazy stuff. So he'll commit to some wild, outrageous goal. And if he hits the goal, he has a reward. But if he doesn't hit the goal, he has some crazy punishment that he has to do. Some cases it's like, hey, I'm going to find the thing you hate the most and you're going to donate to a charity that actually does what you hate. Or it might be something ridiculous, like you're going to eat dog food and videotape it. Like they've literally made it fun. Why? But at the same time, it's because guess what? In life, guess what? If you don't perform, there's a reward, right? Or there is a consequence. And so why not, if you're really going to be committed to going to the next level, start going with somebody that can help you and actually start creating rewards and actually putting together punishments. And I'm not saying beat yourself, right? You know, the whole point of this is to be fun. But when you actually don't hit your goal, you're paying the price in a way, form, or fashion. So that could be as simple as this. You know, Sam and Toshi have always held each other accountable. If Sam, let's say, gives himself a goal and he says, hey, by next week, I'm going to get this done. And let's say that he doesn't get it done. Then he owes Toshi dinner. Now, it doesn't mean that he's going to go unless if Toshi's smart and he says, let's go to this really expensive restaurant. It's not going to cost him an arm and a leg, but the whole point is he recognizes, you know what, man, I didn't hit my goal. So it's going to cost me something. Why? So that next time I'm going to think twice about not pushing towards my goal. Does that make sense? Yeah. And that's the whole goal. Now, for those of you who don't have that, how many of you guys actually have a bucket list? So we have a couple hands. Okay, good. Awesome. So for the, I use a tool called Keep. And what I'm finding is, and this is something that my family and I are doing, is we actually have our bucket list. And we look at that. I look at that with my family and my kids. And we add things. We have them in 5 categories. If you guys want that, that'll be a part of the training later. I'll cover. But the whole goal here is we list the things that we want to enjoy, the things we want to do, the things we want to accomplish. And sometimes those rewards are for hitting these goals. One of my daughter's rewards was not only for her birthday, but if she actually helped around the house consistently and wasn't a pain, that we were going to go to the Cabbage Patch. That was more of a punishment for me. But we got to adopt a really ugly baby that but we went all the way to to Georgia, went and did the whole thing. I gave Melissa the video of my daughter actually doing her vows and everything else. And so, but the whole point is there was a reward for her being consistent. And you know what I love about it, there's got to be a balance too, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what I love about it is, so one of the goals that I gave my daughter is she needs to save a certain amount of money. Why? Because even though she's only just turned 8, if you don't train them young, then what will happen is they'll become like everybody else. And my daughter's not going to become like everybody else. My daughter's going to be amazing. She's standing on daddy's shoulders is what's going to happen. I didn't sacrifice as much to not have that happen. And so part of that is living it out. Well, my daughter is such an implementer now, and I'm so proud of that. But sometimes the lack of balance is this. My daughter got a gift card from Amazon for her birthday. And she's literally crying to my wife while I was on a trip and saying, but daddy says don't waste money. I'm going to save it, but I really want this thing. But it's a waste of money. I don't need this. I have all these things. So she's literally debating as an 8-year-old, like, this is a waste of money. This is not an asset. This is a liability. So we finally said, baby, you're right. You have a goal, but this is a gift for your birthday. Go buy whatever the heck you want with it. You guys follow? But the whole point is she's already developing that muscle of, no, that's a reward, or there's a punishment for not actually pursuing my goals. And for her, she wants to save money. So her fear was what? That if she spent the money, there would be a punishment. You guys follow? Yeah. But it's important that we actually make sure that we live that example and do it. So if you guys want some additional ideas, I'll be happy to share later. The one thing I found is this. I think I've shared with you guys before. I've done a study on some very successful people, especially in the business development world. And we've actually analyzed at least over 250 of the top performing people that make at least $250,000 a year plus in commission-only jobs. We talked about time management, and we talked about a few other. Look at that. We already ran out of time. Look at how quickly it's gone. Just wanted to show you guys that example.
How long is
You weren't timing it? Look at that.
No.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
So again, 2 hours of
You had one
sourcing,
job.
2 hours of sourcing were parts of their goals, right? And the other thing they had is they had a visualization on a daily basis of what that goal was. One perfect example, Steve, actually in his calendar, which he shares with me every day, he's got his number of 10 million every single day. He sees that before he comes into the office. Why? Because for him, he's got it on his calendar every day before he starts. There's his goal. When he opens up the actual calendar, there's a picture of the kids in Ukraine, and he's got his purpose inside. Why? Because he wants to be reminded and visualized, I'm hitting my goal because I have a bigger purpose. We want to help these kids out there that we're helping right now. And so it's important for us to visualize it. So if you don't have a daily visual reminder, you're missing the mark. And then lastly, be accountable. If you don't strategize and set somebody in your team to hold you accountable, I'm telling you, you're going to miss 50% of the time. So why not get smart and get an accountability partner now as you're strategizing for the next level? Okay?